Welcome to Leaping Larry's Revolutionary Reading Theatre.
Right. We are reading more from Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah, Neo-Colonialism. Switch the text here. Editing purposes later. We are right here. Foreign investment in South African mining, part 8. Okay, Arnalda, have a good day. Foreign investment in South African mining. It has been estimated that over 50% of the foreign capital invested in Africa has been poured into South Africa. British investments probably total nearly 2,800 million, and American investments closer to 840 million. 1957 US government survey of American overseas investments shows the single most profitable area in the mining and smelting business of South Africa. Profits are higher than any other comparable investment in the United States. The high profits can be explained largely by the cheapness of African labor. According to a 1962 statistical abstract of the United States, U.S. miners earn an average of $2.70 an hour, which is 70 times the amount earned by South African miners. 27 times. Dominant in South Africa's economy is the Anglo-American De Beers Group, part of the empire of Harry Oppenheimer, talked about last chapter, which extends into Southwest Africa and Zambia. It is linked with mining companies in many other African states. The value of the empire has been enhanced by the discovery that uranium can be produced from the residues and slimes which surround old gold mines. Extraction of uranium from gold ores and slimes has brought South Africa. Hey, how do you say? Welcome, welcome. Yes, we are NTC. And uranium. Extraction of uranium from gold ores and slimes has brought South Africa into the world's leading place as the producer of uranium. The working of slimes accumulated over the past 60 years, together with those from current gold production, is helping to prolong the life of many exhausted gold mines. In 1956, 8 million pounds of uranium oxide were produced in South Africa, providing exports valued at 39 million pounds. This leaves out of account the quantities that go to the Atomic Energy Board of South Africa, with whom several of the mines have contracts. Profit made from the production of uranium oxide is running ahead of that derived from gold extract. In fact, the working profits derived from uranium extract exceed those derived from gold extraction on the 17 producing mines taken together. And on 5 of them, they actually offset working losses incurred in the production of the gold. South Africa, Monaco coal, pages 313 to 315, Methuen 61. The quotation relates to the year 1955. Harmony Gold Mining Company Limited, one of the more important gold and uranium producing companies within the Anglo-American Consolidated Goldfields Maze of Interest. Its authorized capital of £5 million has been paid up to the amount of £4,500,000. Secretarial services and offices of the company are provided by Rand Mines Limited, a company that gives executive, administrative, technical services to the South African companies of the Central Mining Rand Mines Group. Chairman of Harmony is P. H. Anderson, a deputy chairman of Rand Mines. Other directors in common are Messrs. R. E. M. Blakeway and N. W. S. Lewin, chairman of Rand Mines, and C. W. Engelhardt, who is also chairman of Rand American Investments, Y Limited, and patently has a watching brief for the United States investors who more and more infiltrating into primary materials extraction in Africa. All of Rand American's 2,371,49,000 shares of £1 each are held by De Beers Investment Trust Limited, now Ransel, a wholly owned subsidiary of Rand Selection Corporation, since the recent rejuggling of the Rand Group. Rand American owns nearly all of the preference shares and substantial interest in the issued ordinary shares of Central Mining and Investment Corporation, as well as substantial interest in the issued ordinary capital of Rand Mine Limited. The American link confirms the tie-up forming the Central Mining Rand Mines Group. Consolidated Goldfields and Anglo-American Corporation interests converge in Harmony, in which both have appreciable holdings. By the grace of the South African government, Harmony was able to acquire undermining and mineral rights over some 8,000 acres of land, as well as freehold ownership of farms covering approximately 10,000 acres. These holdings being rather more than Harmony could cope with, it was found profitable to sell the right to mine precious metals on two portions of its areas on lease until 1967. Alright, Mama, I'll see ya. This right went to another Anglo-American concern, Virginia Orange Free State Gold Mining Company Limited. Harmony's remuneration for this friendly gesture to his sister company was a minimum $3 million payable quarterly, free of interest. Virginia Orange brings us once more into contact with the American marriage to South African mining. First example being Mr. C. W. Engelhardt, an American Democrat who, as president of Engelhardt Industries, refiners of precious metals in the United States, sought after steady supplies to keep his plants working. Found them in South Africa, where he linked up with Oppenheimer, and later branched out into baser metals and other fields of profit. Mr. Engelhardt, following Oppenheimer's inspiration, has also found a niche in Canadian, Australian, and Colombian mining industries, and distributes finished goods in Europe throughout companies established in Paris, Rome, and London. Mr. Engelhardt's qualities, as well as services to the extension of American interests abroad, are recognized in his membership of the U.S. Foreign Policy Association. Not that Oppenheimer. We looked that up, yes. We did look that one up. With Virginia Orange, we are brought into a more considerable American influence than Mr. Engelhardt was able to singly produce. By the association of the powerful Kennecott Copper Corporation with this gold mining and uranium extracting company, Kennecott had interest in Virginia Orange, which it passed over, together with those it owned in Maris Brewitt, Orange Free State Gold Mining Company Limited, to the reorganized concern formed in 1961 to acquire those interests. The new company bears the combination title Virginia Maris Pruitt Investments Pty Limited, and the rearrangement will enable it to fulfill an outstanding uranium contract with Atomic Energy Board of South Africa. Mr. Engelhard is a member of the Virginia Maris Board by virtue of the holding directly brought into it by his Engelhard Industries of South Africa Limited, and his connections with Rand Mines Limited, and Anglo-American Corporation, which together with two other associates, Nkrumah Limited and Anglo-Transvaal Consolidated Investment Company Limited, formed the parties to the new company. Financiers and dealers in mining and other properties in the Transvaal, Anglo-Transvaal is a subsidiary, Anglo-Transvaal Rhodesian Exploration Company, Pty Limited, which operates in northern and southern Rhodesia. Its mineral prospects include coal, copper, chrome, and nickel, with capital authorized at $4,337,500 not fully paid up pounds, not fully paid up. Anglo-Transvaal is operating on an unsecured short-term loan of £1 million from the National Finance Corporation of South Africa, private organization with which Anglo-American corporations friends of the international investment world are closely associated, including the host of Morgan, which has a substantial interest in Kennecott Copper. Among Kennecott's extensive mining arrangements in Africa is a 30% investment in Anglo-Transvaal Rhodesia. Primed by Morgan friends, Kennecott knows how to take care of its manifold concerns. Hence, as consideration for cessation of its interest in the Virginia and Maris Pruitt mines, is to receive an amount of £3,500,000, payable in 5 annual installments. This does not, however, serve Kennecott's connection with these valuable Oppenheimer-Engelhard properties. For the American Copper Corporation will be entitled to the interest of 20% up to a maximum of £2,500,000 on any Virginia Maris Pruitt net surplus that may accrue after the installment payments of the cash consideration of £3,500,000 have been fully met. This entitlement, however, will be forfeit in the event of Kennecott taking up at a later date from the members of Virginia Maris Pruitt 20% of the then issued share capital. These are tortuous means by which financial clenches are held. It is obvious that the way is being kept wide open for Kennecott's re-entry into the heart of the company. Meantime, it can still feast at the table. Kennecott is the former copper producer of the United States, whose shares on the futures market are valued by knowing operators at around $1.48 billion, even though its present capital of 11,053,051 shares of no nominal or per value issued out of 12 million authorized had been given a stated value of only 74,806,424. The possessor of copper mines, concentrating mills, smelters, refineries, fabricating works, and railways, it has smelting agreements for much of its ores with American Smelting and Refining Company, with whom it has 2 subsidiaries in common. American Smelter is a producer itself of copper as well as silver, lead, zinc, and gold in the United States, Mexico, Canada, and Peru. Its interests extend to Australia and Nicaragua, and it has arrangements with Cerro Corporation, Newmont Mining Corporation, Phelps Dodge Corporation, all of whom have substantial investments in South African mining projects, including the Tsumeb Corporation of Southwest Africa. The American chemical industry enters the Kennecott field of operations through a joint venture with the important Allied Chemical and Dye Corporation. The Allied Kennecott Titanium Corporation is to produce and sell titanium metal and has put up a pilot plant. A further breakthrough has been made by the acquisition of 25% Western Phosphates Incorporated, 7.3% in the common stock of Moibeldim Corporation of America, and 50% of Garfield Chemical and Manufacturing Corporation. There has been a branching out into mineral exploration in Brazil and Mexico, with two subsidiaries, Penarand Pesaquas Minerals, South Africa, 60% Kennecott owned, and CIA Kenemax, South Africa, respectively. Another subsidiary, Braden Copper, works a copper property in Chile. Expansion into Canada is by way of Quebec Columbium Limited. That's a weird title. Formed by Kennecott with Molybdenum Corporation of America to investigate a Colombian property near Montreal, and Quebec Iron and Titanium Corporation. Owned 2/3 by Kennecott and 1/3 by New Jersey Zinc Company. The latter company is linked up with a great oil organization, Texaco Incorporated, and a joint enterprise, Texas Zinc Minerals Corporation, for the construction and operation of a uranium processing mill in Utah. Uranium mine in Utah was brought in 1956 and the mill began operations in 1957, also treating ores from other mines. The uranium concentrate produced is being sold to the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission under contract. The New Jersey Kennecott venture in Quebec, iron and titanium, is going to prove extremely valuable. Titanium is a metal that does not melt at supersonic speeds and is accordingly in high demand for use in jet aircraft. Greece also figures in Kennecott's sphere of interest, where its 95% owned Canbastos Mining Incorporated Limited works asbestos property in West Africa. It has 76% holding in Tin and Associated Metals Limited, operating a Colombian and tin property in northern Nigeria. Colombium from this mine provides most of the world's present production. Our examination into Harmony Gold Mining Company Limited has led us a long way around the world and into realms of power and prodigious wealth. It seems inevitable once we begin to trace the external interests that intertwine Africa's exploitation with that of many other parts of the world. Coming back to Harmony, it is impressive to note that this company, having a gold reduction plant capable of dealing with 200,000 tons of ore a month, also boasts a uranium extraction plant whose capacity is 120,000 tons monthly. The plant began operations in April 1955. Attached to it is a sulfuric acid plant with a daily capacity of 120 tons, which started production in January 1960. The uranium extraction plant was erected under arrangements made with the Export-Import Bank of Washington, USA, UK Ministry of Supply. A loan was obtained from the Atomic Energy Board of South Africa for the entire capital cost of the plant. Exclusive of the capacity extension from 80,000 to 120,000 tons monthly, the company is under contract with the Combined Development Agency, as well as with the UK authority alone, to supply various quantities of uranium at fixed prices under arrangements which will allow it, without incurring extra costs, to cover by June 1965 capital expenditure on plant. During the year-end 30 June 1961, Harmony milled a total 2,116,000 tons of ore, which yielded 857,797 ounces of fine gold, providing a working revenue of 10,800,000 £10,810,496, with a working profit of £4,090,677. 2,067,100 tons of slimes treated yielded 974,349 pounds of uranium oxide, giving an estimated working profit from uranium, pyrites, and acid of 2,680,233 pounds. Accounts for the following 6 months to the end of 1961 showed that 2,285,000 tons of ore milled resulted in a working revenue from gold of 4,458,177 pounds. Treatment of 2,138,300 tons of slimes produced 953,100 pounds of uranium oxide, giving a working profit from uranium, pyrites, and acids 2,284,647 pounds. That was better. For a working year, 1961, dividend paid was 56%. Net profit for the year 1960-61 was 6,674,739 pounds. The dividends paid accounted for 2,497,500 pounds. All this can be regarded as most satisfactory for shareholders on a fully paid up capital of 4,500,000 pounds. Messrs. Engelhardt and Oppenheimer must bear a special regard for their friends in the Export-Import Bank for their ready aid in this venture, in a country that makes a mockery of human rights for its non-white inhabitants. Such ease of assistance, if extended to the less developed new nations of the continent by an international banking organization, would help lessen the gap that the developed countries are forever depreciating, but which, by these stealthy means, they serve to widen between the have and have not countries. Chapter 8. This one too. This one has some lists in it, and I'm not gonna list the lists out loud. We're just gonna scroll through them because you get the idea. The point is the number. Here we go. Chapter 9. Anglo-American Corporation Limited. Biggest octopus in the Oppenheimer Sea of Operations, probably the Anglo-American Corporation Limited. Its investments are on a threefold scale, and their list of the main ones convey but the barest idea of the very considerable range. Why do importing when you can do both, right, Bama? Exports potato chips. These are more or less direct participants and do not include the more intricate holdings. Seinfeld joke, by the way. For all you who are like, what the fuck? These are more or less direct participants and do not include the more intricate holdings held through or in common with subsidiaries and others in a more far-reaching extension of interest, principally in mining. They nevertheless branch out into processing, transport, and communications, land holdings and estate, forestry and timber, industry, as well as into hydroelectrical power schemes like that of Rhodesia-Congo Border Power Corporation. Gold, uranium, iron, asbestos, and coal mines are among the corporation's most notable undertakings in South Africa, forming the solid foundation on which the Oppenheimer Empire stands. Copper mining is a principal occupation in the Rhodesias, though it exports exploits also lead, zinc, and cadmium, and has the distinction of being the only producer of coal in Rhodesia, where it controls the Wangi Colliery. Through associated companies, its interests spread out in the Tayanga, Uganda, and Congo, Angola, Mozambique, West Africa, and even the Sahara and North Africa, as can be seen by this list of direct investments. Finance and investment companies. So this is the Anglo-American Corporation. Look at this. Finance and investment companies. Freaking European investments. Look. Spears. Epoch. Grand American Investment. Rhodesian Acceptance. Transvaal. You see this, right? Now, how about the diamond mines? Coal mines. Copper mines. Gold mines. Other mining. Prospecting. Yeah. Look at all these. Look at all these totally separate competing companies, comrades. Industrial and sundry. Land and estate. It is interesting to note among the companies two that are engaged in the enlistment of native labor, namely Anglo Colliery's recruitment organization (PY Limited) and Hanson's native labor organizations (PY Limited). Recruiting labor for the South African mines has always been an absorbing problem, in connection with which there long ago grew up an efficient organization for importing workers, not only from reserves of South Africa itself, but also from the protectorates, the Rhodesias, and Nyasaland. There are long-standing arrangements with the authorities of the Portuguese colonies, particularly Mozambique, for the recruitment of African labor for work in the mines of South Africa. Enforcement of apartheid through the establishment of Bantustans, such as recently gone through in the Tuskegee, will force the chiefs, under inducement, to supply increasing numbers of local men for the mines. There is now a plan to stop the employment of workers from Zambia, Rhodesia, Malawi, and even from the protectorates. It may well be thought that these people will be infected with the disease of nationalism, and hence add fuel to the fire of unrest that has been lit in South Africa itself. It is significant that Mozambique Africans are still allowed the privilege of enriching South Africa's mine owners by their toil, not least among them Anglo-American Corporation. This company was incorporated in 1917, brought together a number of mining, investments, and industrial companies already controlled by Mr. Harry Oppenheimer. I keep wanting to say doctor, for fuck's sakes. And to bring them into tighter organization with such other interests as Mr. C.W. Engelhardt, chairman of Rand Mines, Kennecott Copper Corporation, and other associates, as the guardian of these interests. Anglo-American acts as a technical manager and secretary to an extensive number of mining and investment companies, falling within its wide parameter. In its executive, administrative, and secretarial capacities, it also arranges the financial life of the many enterprises coming under its care. The list given indicates only the barest bones of Anglo-Americans' multifarious interests, and if we were to examine them in detail, we should find ourselves reaching into the most tangled complex of arteries and sinews. Many of the undertakings are not only important in themselves, but have involvements which weave together the mining, industrial, and financial world of Africa with that of the rest of the world. Such organizations as the Rand Selection Corporation, Union Corporation, Rokana Corporation Limited, and certain others participate in a self perpetuating and exclusive ensemble. Interaction and interpenetration of interest is a predominant feature emphasizing the monopolistic nature of the African mining industry, whose leaders are the most powerful arbiters of the continent's industrial growth, especially south of the Sahara. It is not difficult to understand how, from this position, they and their European and American associates and financial backers wield a preponderant influence upon the policies of their governments in relation to the African scene. Thank you, Mag. Appreciate that. By the way, if you are enjoying my content, feel free to drop gift subs, yourself, your Prime subscription. You can send me some of Bezos money. Also, the best way to, of course, to support me, especially right now in the holidays, I'm scrambling to get little Larry a Merry Christmas, is through direct donation, graciously pinned, which you can find a link for you can find a link that is now pinned thanks to my mod. Thank you. Cash is accepted, yeah. PayPal is the best way. Drink something too, please. Yes. Should I do a hydrate redeem? Do I need that now? I have water. Thank you, Meg. Any type of support is, of course, appreciated, though. There's PayPal or otherwise. And only if you have the means. Stretch yourselves thin, please. Account. A look, for instance. Eggnog flavored black tea. Sounds delicious, cinnamon. Sounds so delicious. A look, for instance, at Rand Selection Corporation Limited brings us at once upon one of the principal arms of Anglo American Corporation, the working of its vast empire. Rand immediately brings to mind the vision of fever, diamond, and gold rushes that followed in the wake of young Cecil Rhodes and his brother adventurers in the late 1870s. Rhodes' quarrel with the Boers was over the fight to penetrate the interior to get at the gold of the Witwatersrand. His political leadership was assumed to make himself king of the mining wealth that had been discovered. It was, according to a committee set up in the Cape to examine Rhodes' part in the infamous Jameson raid, in his capacity as controller of the three great joint stock companies, British South Africa Company, the De Beers Consolidated Mines, and Goldfields of South Africa. He directed and controlled the combination which rendered such a proceeding as the Jameson raid possible. The Jameson raid finished Rhodes politically in South Africa. It was then turned to what is now Rhodesia, where he made the British South Africa Company the power in the land that has been ever since. Nor has the control of political affairs by all the great mining combines abated in any way since then. Rather has it intensified until they are the powers which control in direct affairs, not in Africa alone, but by their integration with other formidable combinations in Europe and America. They exercise great influence in these continents also, and hence internationally. De Beers and goldfields remain. The intervening years have, naturally, seen an extension of the opening up of mines and their exploitation, accompanied by a constant adaptation of their financial arrangement. Goldfields heads a vast organization of its own. De Beers has come within its periphery of the Rand Selection Corporation, but still controls within its own group of companies output and distribution of most of the world's diamonds. See, we're at a 2-minute ad break. I want to thank all you subscribers for supporting the stream and hanging out with me and everything else. Very much means a lot, and learning along with me while we do the reads and everything. Trying out this whole new ad schedule thing. Trying to maybe we'll get rid of the pre-roll ads this way and see if that makes it more enjoyable for people to come in and my thoughts. That's my thought, and I'm sticking to it. Right? Cinnamon's drink sounds delicious. Been thinking about since ever since she described it. Stop thinking about it. Eggnog tea? We want the eggnog tea now.
It's all for one motherfucker and one motherfucker for all motherfuckers everywhere. You know what I'm saying?
Kind of jealous of the eggnog tea. You know what I'm saying? Big low eggnogging. Biglow eggnogging. I like that name is amazing. My God, that's perhaps even better sound. That's better sounding than perhaps it could ever even hope to taste. It's an incredible name. Eggnogging, big low eggnogging. What the hell? That is. It's a mouthful. All right, back to our read. In its own right, Rand Selection owns around 14,890 acres of freehold property, some of the richest mining areas of South Africa. A number of townships have been laid out by the company, in which it has leasehold rights of high value. Certain of its rights are secured by a 92% interest in South African Townships Mining Finance Corporation Limited and its wholly owned subsidiaries, African Gold and Base Metals Holding Limited, Cecilia Park Pty Limited, and Dewhurst Farms Limited. Rand Selection is, however, subsidiary of Anglo-American, under whose direction its scope was enlarged at the close of 1960 to enable it to participate in any new business undertaken by Anglo-American up to the 1st of October 1970 on an increased percentage basis. The enlargement of Rand Selection was accomplished by the contributing of shares, loans, and cash to De Beers Investment Trust by Anglo-American. Subsidiaries of British South African Company, Central Mining and Investment Corporation Limited. De Beers Consolidated Mines and Johannesburg Consolidated Investment Company Limited, who have been joined by the American-controlled South African company Engelhard Hemovia Incorporated, International Nickel Company of Canada Limited, controlled by the American Rockefeller Morgan Groups. Rand Selection then acquired all the issued capital of De Beers Investment Trust in return for the issue of shares of its own to the investment trust shareholder. Under the arrangement, De Beers Investment has become a wholly owned subsidiary of Rand Selection. Yet, at the same time, by the acquisition of its holdings in Rand Selection, Beers is now the majority holder of Rand's 33,085,365 shares issued and fully paid up of the 35 million authorized to comprise its capital of 8,270,000 pounds. It is perfectly obvious that the loans and cash advanced to De Beers by the above listed companies in order to enable it to facilitate its own and Rand's enlargement. As a result of the 1962 implementation of the agreed rearrangement, De Beers Investment is now known as Ransel Investment. Its three wholly owned subsidiaries, Rand American Investments Pty Limited, Rhodes Investment Limited, Jameson Mining Holdings Pty Limited, are now consolidated within the Rand Selection organization. The two holding companies, Rand Selection and Ransel, shared also in 1962 in the enlargement of another Anglo-American creation, Consolidated Mine Selection Company Limited, registered in the United Kingdom in 1897, whose interests cover the major mining activities in Southern Africa. The assets of Consolidated Mines were jerked up to £15 million by the acquisition from companies within the Anglo-American sphere of holdings, worth over $10,500,000. The British South Africa Company Central Mining and Investment Corporation Limited, Johannesburg Consolidated Investment Corporation Limited, and Selection Trust Limited, as well as by smaller holdings in the Bay Hall Trust Limited and Rhodesian Anglo-American Limited. In return for ceding their shares, the participating companies have acquired shares in Consolidated Mine Selection Company. At the same time, Rand Selection took up, in association with Anglo-American Consolidated Mine Selection, affiliated companies, an option on the purchase of 400,000 shares in Hudson Bay Mining and Smelting Company, one of the three leading copper gold mining companies in Canada, controlled by United States Finance. Exercise of this option was made possible by loans raised in America, probably from the same interest behind Hudson Bay Mining. Good afternoon, Plants Fanon. Welcome in, comrade. Hope you were well. We're just finishing up today's Kwame Nkrumah read. Rand Selection's operations also coincide with those of Anglo-American and the very important Swaziland Iron Ore Development Company, which has concluded contracts with two major Japanese steel producers, Yawata Iron and Steel Company and Fuji Iron and Steel Company, as well as with General Ore International Corporation, for the sale to them of 12 million tons of ore over a period approximately 10 years. Anglo-American has enabled Rand Selection to participate in the purchase of British Coated Board and Paper Mills Limited, the United Kingdom's firm, of a large holding in South African Board Mills Limited. This, stated Mr. H.F. Oppenheimer in his report to the 71st Annual General Meeting of Rand Selection Corporation Limited, Johannesburg, on 26th of February 1963, is one of the leading growth companies in South Africa and is managed by Stafford Mayer and Company, with whom the Anglo-American Corporation has long been associated in the coal industry. Contractual arrangements with the Anglo-American have secured Rand Selection participation in a number of property developments in Johannesburg. The two have also gone hand in hand in Anglo-American's widespread prospecting activities and in certain development projects. Among them are explorations into the feasibility of the Bolshevik ingenious complex of South Africa. Sorry. Here, indeed, an Anglo-American is the most ramified industrial and financial structure in Africa, powerful and commanding. Organization that governs the fate of millions on this continent, stretches out its influence overseas. Like all monopolies, Anglo-American is never content with the existing boundaries of its empire, but is ever seeking extensions, partly because it cannot afford to be overtaken. Hence, it is continually conducting a comprehensive prospecting program in many parts of Africa and elsewhere in order to find untapped sources of mineral wealth that can be profitably exploited. Chapter 9. Kwame Nkrumah right there. That is chapter 9 of Kwame Nkrumah. Next time we do the read tomorrow, we will be on the diamond groups, chapter 10.